The crystalline doors of the grand hall slid open with a soft chime, and the light inside shifted like water. Every beam bent around tall pillars that looked like frozen trees. Walls of living crystal glowed with slow color. The long carpet was not cloth, but a moss that lit up under footsteps, a gentle path of stars. The air smelled faintly of rain. It was a place designed to make all visitors feel small and quiet. The alien queen, Sarathis of the Void Bloom, sat upon a throne that grew out of the floor. It wrapped around her like a flower made of glass and pearl. Her body was tall and slender, her skin a soft silver, with veins of pale blue light. The crown on her head was not metal. It was a living thing that opened and closed like a night blossom. Every eye in the court watched her. Servants stood still as statues. Nobles wore feathers grown from their own armor. They held their breath as the human entered. Captain Elias Corrin stepped into the light. He wore a clean uniform, simple dark, with a small silver badge. He did not bring a weapon. He did not bow. His face was calm, marked by fine lines of grief and long duty. He had eyes the color of storm clouds. He had a soldier's walk, steady, grounded, ready. He crossed the hall beneath the soft glow of the living moss. The light traced his steps behind him and went dark again as he passed. The queen felt it then, a strange vibration in her chest. Her kind did not call it love. They called it resonance, a deep pattern that aligned to living minds. It came rarely. It was not supposed to come with an alien. But she felt it, bright and undeniable as he lifted his eyes and looked straight at her. Not with fear, not with challenge. With an open heart, Sarathis gave a small signal with her hand. A chiming bell drifted down from the ceiling like a falling note. The hall settled into silence. "Captain Elias Corrin," she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the great space like music. "You stand in my house. You stand under the lights of my ancestors. You stand here in truce. Do you understand your safety is guaranteed as long as your words are sincere?" Elias stopped 10 paces from the first step of the throne. "I understand your radiance," he said. His voice was low and even. "I am here to speak for Earth, for the living, for a peace that can keep both our children alive." There was a small ripple through the court. The nobles shifted. Their feathers hummed with static. Peace was the word no one trusted. Peace sounded like giving up power. Peace sounded like softening a blade. And yet, the human said it without shame. Sarathis felt something else, a memory. Long ago, before she wore the crown, she had studied the old songs of her people. They spoke of a time when leaders did not rule by fear. They ruled by choice, by voice, by the slow weaving of trust. She had thought those songs were a beautiful lie. But now a human stood in her hall and spoke as if those songs were true. "Tell me," she said, "why does your world think it can survive a war with mine?" Elias did not look around for help. He had no advisors beside him. "We do not think we can survive a long war," he said, honest as stone. "We think we can survive today, and then we can survive tomorrow. And we can keep doing that until something better than war is possible." A single heartbeat passed. Then another. The queen's pulse echoed in her throat. She leaned forward, her crown blooming wider as if to hear. "And what is better than war?" She asked. "Trust," he said. The word was so simple it felt like a shock. Trade, shared knowledge. The joy of walking on a world that is not yours and being welcomed. The pride of building something that lasts longer than hate. One of the nobles, Lord Threx, clicked his tongue. "Poetry," he said, loud enough for all to hear. "Poetry from a soldier, while Earth's fleets hide in asteroid shadows." Elias turned his head. "I do not hide," he said. "I am here." Threx opened his mouth to answer, but the queen lifted her hand again. Silence fell like snow. Sarathis studied the human. She had faced warriors who shook worlds. She had faced diplomats who could slice a treaty into 1,000 hooks. She had faced assassins who smiled as they bowed. This man was not like them. He was plain. He was a shape you would miss in a crowd. And yet when he spoke, The hall seemed to listen to him before they noticed they were doing it. "Walk with me," she said. A breath moved through the court. It was unusual for her to rise during a session. It was even more unusual for her to invite a guest to walk at her side. But Sarathis stood. Her throne opened and lowered her to the steps. The crown pulled back a little so her face was clear. She stepped down, and Elias matched her pace, careful, respectful, not too close. They walked along the edge of the hall, past pillars that sang softly in the heat of their own light. Servants peeled away and formed a boundary, a living wall of space and respect. They passed tall archways that looked into gardens of glass leaves and slow-flowing water that wasn't water. They reached a balcony that opened over the city. The sky beyond the hall was a deep indigo, flecked with traffic lights. Great flying craft slid through the air like whales through a calm sea. "Do you think my people are cruel?" Sarathis asked. Elias looked out at the city. "You fight hard," he said. "You fight to win. Many of my people think that is the same as cruelty, but I have seen what you build here. I have seen your hospitals and your schools. I have seen the way your young learn with their whole bodies. I have seen how you paint the sides of your buildings with stories of the past and the future. Those are not the signs of cruel hearts." And yet she said, a small smile touching her lips, "Your world resists me." "We resist dying," he said. "We resist bending the knee to a law we did not write. We resist forgetting who we are." She turned to him fully. The balcony light made her eyes glow like wet silver. "And who are you, Captain?" He took a breath. "I am one voice in a long chain of voices. I am one soldier who promised to hold the line until someone smarter than me finds a better path. I am someone who has buried friends. I am someone who would like to stop burying friends." There it was again, the simple truth. It was like a clean blade, smooth and bright. It cut through the noise. Sarathis felt her heart move in her chest. It was not a cruel heart. It was not a weak heart. It was a heart that had almost forgotten what it meant to be surprised. "You do not flatter me," she said. "I do not know how to flatter," he said, and a very small smile reached his eyes. They stood in quiet for a moment. The city breathed below them. The hall's pillars hummed. A breeze lifted the edges of Sarathis's long cloak. It was made of fibers that drank light and gave it back as a slow aura. "The truce will last 3 days," she said. "In that time, there will be many meetings, many papers, many words. But I will ask you one thing now, before the noise begins. What is the first step you want from me?" Elias looked at the city again. "Call your ships back from the ice miners at Sagan's Reach," he said. "Let them finish their season. The fuel they bring will power our hospitals and our farms. It is not a military target. It is life support. Let that place breathe. It is a rich field," she said. "My admirals say it belongs to me now." "Your admirals do not grow crops in our winter," he said, and his voice was gentle but firm. "They do not hold the hands of our sick. They do not fix broken heaters on nights that are too cold. And if I say yes," she asked, "then every mother who warms her home will think of your name," he said. "Every patient who wakes from surgery will think of your name. Every child who eats bread baked with the power of those minds will think of your name." Her crown unfolded a little more, as if it were a flower turning toward the sun. "And if I say no, then you are still queen," he said. "But the darkness will say your name too." Sarathis did not answer at once. She looked down where the balcony curved like a crescent moon. She thought of what a queen is. She thought of the first time she had placed the crown on her head. It had grown into her skin with polite pain. It had whispered the laws of her people in her ear. It had sung the old victories in her sleep. She had wanted to be strong. She had wanted to be wise. Somewhere along the line she had settled for being feared. "Come back to the hall," she said. "Let us put your request on the record." They returned to the center of the grand hall. Nobles watched with sharp eyes. The living moss brightened under their steps. The queen lifted her hand, and the bell note fell again. Clear and bright. "I, Sarathis of the Void Bloom," she said, "grant a stay at Sagan's Reach, My ships will withdraw for 1 season." A murmur rose and broke across the court like a wave. She continued before anyone could interrupt. "In exchange, I ask that Earth send engineers to observe our med stations on the border. We will share non-military techniques for tissue repair. We will save more lives on both sides." Elias bowed his head, the smallest motion, genuine. "That is a good trade, your radiance." Lord Threx stepped forward, unable to swallow his outrage. "Your radiance, the Reach belongs to whoever keeps their people alive with honor," Sarathis said without looking at him. "Do not teach me my duty." Threx withdrew with a tight jaw. The court watched him with secret pleasure. Many feared him. Many would enjoy his small defeat, even if they would not say it aloud. The session moved on. Requests were made. Promises were weighed. The truce was a fragile glass bird in everyone's hands. At last, the Queen ended the formalities. The nobles began to leave. The music returned soft strings from instruments that grew out of the walls like vines of sound. Elias waited near the base of the throne steps. He did not try to come closer without her permission. Sarathis stood from her seat again, a second break with habit. The hall quieted a little. Curiosity pulled like a tide. "I will show you something," she said to Elias. "If you see it, fewer understand it." She led him through a side door guarded by silent soldiers. They walked down a spiral tunnel that shone with a soft inner light. The temperature cooled. The air smelled older, like stone after rain. The tunnel opened into a garden beneath the citadel, the sanctuary of roots. It was not like the gardens above. This one was simple. Low trees with leaves like thin glass. A pool that held water and not water at the same time, reflective and deep. The floor was dirt, rich and dark. Small white flowers grew out of it in clusters, glowing with their own tiny stars. "This is where my people remember," Sarathis said. "We do not write all our history in books. We plant some of it." She knelt by a tree whose bark was smooth and pale. "This tree holds the memory of a queen who ended a plague. This one holds the memory of a queen who moved our cities when the ground broke open. This one," she touched the tree nearest the pool, "holds the memory of a queen who refused a war." Elias stood quietly, hands behind his back. "And what happened to her?" "The nobles called her weak," Sarathis said. "For a time. Then the harvest came, and the children grew, and the sky did not rain fire. Later they called her wise. Sometimes the same act looks weak or wise, depending on how much time you give it," Elias said. She looked at him. The resonance touched her again, warm and bright. "You speak simple," she said, "but your words are heavy." "They are the words I can carry," he said. A sound rose then, far away but sharp, the echo of a shout. Another followed. The Queen turned her head. A guard touched his ear and stiffened. His feathers went dark. "What is it?" Elias asked. "Nothing for you to fear," the guard started. Sarathis held up a hand, and the guard fell silent. She touched the thin, living metal at her wrist. A wave of faint light passed over it. "Say it." The guard swallowed. "An argument in the upper hall? Your radiance." Lord Threx's men tried to detain the human staff who came with supplies. The staff refused. Voices rose. Hands moved. Elias tensed. He had left his small team in the antechamber with their packs of Metagel water purifiers and translation tablets. None were soldiers. All were brave. Sarathis's face went still. She spoke to the air. "Lock the outer balcony doors. Open the inner corridor. Send my mark through the corridor only." Her voice was calm, but it moved with quiet force. Then she turned to Elias. "Walk with me. Do not run. Do not show fear. The court watches more closely than you think." They left the sanctuary and climbed. The tunnel rose like a slow, turning river. The noise above grew louder, angry voices under the cover of polite words. They reached the inner corridor. Guards stepped aside at the Queen's approach. The doors to the antechamber unfolded like the petals of a hard flower. The room beyond was gray with soft light and heavy with tension. Elias's team stood against a wall, arms around their packs. In front of them, Threx's men wore armor with hard ridges. Their hands hovered near shock batons. Threx himself stood at the center, feathers high. "Your Radiance," he said, turning with a smooth bow. "I was just instructing these humans on the proper respect due in our halls." "The proper respect due in my halls is not harassment," Sarathis said. "Stand down." "They refused to place their packs upon the floor," Threx said. "They carry devices that could be spy links. They carry medicine and clean water," Leah said, stepping to the queen's side. "Not in front of her, not behind her. They carry tools for life." Threx's eyes narrowed. "The human speaks out of turn." "The human speaks when his people are threatened," Elias answered, steady, quiet. Sarathis took one step forward. She let the crown open. The living petals spread and glowed. The light filled the antechamber like dawn. "Lord Threx," she said, and her voice was soft, and it was law. "Do you question my truce?" Threx swallowed. "Never, Your Radiance." "Then apologize to my guests," she said. The courtier's jaw tightened. For a heartbeat, he did not move. Then he forced the word out. "Apologies." Elias's team did not answer. They looked to Elias. He gave a small nod and said, "We accept." The pressure in the room lowered. The guards stepped back a fraction. Sarathis turned to Elias, and for the first time since he had entered her hall, she smiled without weight. "Your people may set up their station in the lower clinic," she said. "They will have what they need. If anyone stops them, they will speak my name." "Thank you," Elias said. He sent his team with a look and a few quick words. They left, shoulders relaxing little by little as they moved down the corridor under guard. Threx watched them go with cold eyes. "Your Radiance," he said, when they were out of earshot. "Your mercy is noted. But mercy breeds boldness. The court whispers that you bend too easily to this human." Sarathis turned her head slightly and studied him as if he were a stain on glass. "The court has many mouths," she said. "Each one wants to eat. I will not feed them fear today." Threx bowed low, but his feathers flicked with anger. "As you command," he left without waiting for dismissal. Elias stood very still for a moment, not wanting to intrude upon whatever storm might now spin around the queen. At last he said, "You protected my people. I protected my house," she said. "And my house has guests." They walked back toward the hall. The light had changed while they were below. It was warmer now, as if the great room had taken a breath and softened. Musicians resumed their slow song. Servants brought small trays of fruit and bread that glowed faintly. Like lanterns in the dusk, Sarathis paused at the foot of the throne steps. She looked up at the high, bright vault. She looked down at the human soldier who stood as if he belonged in that ocean of light. "Captain Elias Corrin," she said, "you have asked for a first step. I have given it. Tomorrow you will ask for another. I may give that too, or I may not. But know this, when you entered this hall, I expected a conqueror or a coward. I met neither." "What did you meet?" he asked. "Careful." She held his gaze. "A mirror," she said, "and a choice." He did not ask what the choice was. He did not need to. It lived in the space between them like a quiet star. He bowed, not low, not high, just enough to mark respect without surrender. "Then I will bring you good steps," he said. She nodded once. "Bring me good steps. I will try to walk them."
Ow.
Their eyes held a moment longer. The resonance touched her again, brighter, steadier. Sarathis felt it settle under her ribs, a warmth. It did not distract. It did not weaken. It focused her. She did not think the word love, not yet, perhaps not ever in the human sense. But she knew a true thing. Something new had begun the moment he entered the hall. A chime sounded somewhere in the distance, marking the end of the day session. People began to move, slow as tides. Elias stepped back. He gave her space to rise. She did, and the throne lifted her in a gentle arc. The crown closed like a flower at dusk, as the hall emptied, as the last beams of light shifted on the pillars. Sarathis sat alone for a breath and placed her hand over her heart. She could feel it there, the steady beat, the bright new rhythm running beside it. Tomorrow would bring the council. Tomorrow would bring protests from admirals and whispers from nobles and the small, sharp tests that try to break a truce before it can breathe. But for now, in the quiet hush of the grand hall, the queen allowed herself one thought, simple as the human's words. He is brave, and I am not afraid. Outside, the city glowed. Inside, the living moss dimmed in the path he had walked, holding the memory of his steps like a shadow of stars. Part 1 ended there. Not with a crash, but with a held breath, the kind before a storm or a miracle. The sun over the Theri capital rose like a pale coin, washing the crystal towers in silver light. The grand hall still stood proud, but tension moved through it like a cold wind. Rumors filled the corridors, whispers of nobles angry at the queen's softness. "Admirals who called her unfit to rule!" Sarathis heard the whispers. She had been raised among them, but now, when she heard them, she did not feel anger. She felt distance. The court felt small to her now. Since the human had arrived, something in her heart had grown too large for its walls. Captain Elias Corrin walked the city that morning with 2 guards and 1 translator drone. The Theri people stared as he passed, half in curiosity, half in quiet fear. No human had walked their streets before. He watched their markets of glowing fruit, their floating gardens, their children leaping across bridges of light for the first time in many years. Elias saw beauty that was not human-made. He returned to the palace for the second day of talks. This time, the queen received him not from her throne, but from the garden balcony. The sky behind her shimmered with clouds shaped like sails. "You walk freely," she said, smiling softly. "My guards say the city stared at you as if you were a comet." "Maybe they're right," Elias said. "Comets come from far away, burn bright for a while, and leave questions behind." Her eyes glowed with quiet amusement. "Do all humans speak in riddles?" "Only the tired ones," he said. For a moment, there was silence. Comfortable silence. The kind that does not need to be filled. The fracture of peace later that day, the Peace Council began. Nobles and officers stood in a wide ring around a glowing table that mapped both empires in light. Red and blue stars marked fleets, planets, trade routes. Elias spoke clearly, keeping his words plain and direct. The war began because both sides feared the other's strength. Fear is not a sin, but it can't rule us forever. Admiral Kryn, a tall alien with golden scales, hissed through his sharp teeth. "Fear keeps us alive, human. You speak of peace because you are weak." Elias met his gaze without flinching. "If weakness means not wanting to burn cities, then I accept it." The admiral struck the table with his clawed hand. "You killed millions in the first strike on Kareth Station." Ilias's voice hardened. "I was there. We tried to disable your reactor before your fleet reached Earth's orbit. I lost 2,000 of my own. You lost 3 million because your commander refused to retreat. Don't teach me the cost of war." The hall went silent. The queen watched both men. Her mind split between duty and something deeper. Felt the weight of both truths. When the meeting ended, the air was tight with anger. The admirals left in cold silence. The nobles bowed and whispered. Only Elias stayed. "You will have trouble after today," he said. "I always have trouble," Sarathis replied, but her voice was softer. "It used to mean something different. Once, trouble meant losing a battle. Now it means losing my court. Courts change," he said, "but peace needs someone who doesn't." She turned toward him. Her eyes caught the light of the map table, reflecting stars. "You are not afraid of my anger. I've seen worse," he said. "And I've seen better. You remind me of both." Her heart beat once, slow and deep. The resonance was stronger now, a spark in the dark that night. The palace shook. A single explosion echoed through the lower levels. Smoke climbed up the spiral corridors. Guards ran. Drones screamed alarms. Sarathis left her chambers with her crown glowing like a torch. "What happened?" she demanded. "Sabotage," a guard shouted. Someone set charges near the diplomatic wing. The humans, she cut him off sharply. The humans are under my protection. Find the truth before you name a lie. Elias appeared through the smoke, his uniform torn, his left arm bleeding. Behind him, his team carried wounded Theri civilians, the servants who had been caught in the blast. They hit the lower kitchens, Leah said. I pulled who I could. Sarathis looked at him, a man from the enemy race, carrying her people through fire, and the last bit of doubt in her heart melted. Bring the medics, she ordered. Now, when the chaos calmed, she and Elias stood among the smoke-stained walls. Someone wanted to end this truce, he said quietly. Someone always does, she said. Their eyes met again, weary. Searching certain, the choice of a queen the next morning. The court was in uproar. Lord Threx stood before the queen, his feathers spread in full challenge. This peace has gone too far, he shouted. The humans are using your mercy as a weapon. They planted the bombs. You have proof? Sarathis asked. I have reason. Then you have nothing. The court gasped. Threx's feathers trembled with rage. Your radiance, your ancestors ruled through power. You rule through weakness? Sarathis rose. Her voice filled the grand hall like thunder in a cathedral. Power without mercy is not strength. It is rot. She looked at Elias. He stood still, his hands behind his back. He said nothing, not because he feared speaking, because he trusted her to speak for both of them. The queen turned back to her people. The humans will not leave. Not while this truce stands. They came for peace, and they will have it. Anyone who acts against that will face my law. Threx hissed. You would threaten your own kind for them? I would protect the living from the dead dreams of the past, she said. Then she turned to the guards. Remove him. They hesitated. Threx sneered. Even your soldiers doubt you. Sarathis looked at them, her crown unfolding like fire. My word is law. Move him. The guards obeyed. Threx was dragged from the hall, shouting curses about betrayal and ruin. When he was gone, the queen sat again. Her pulse still raced. Her heart still burned. But for the first time in a long time, she felt light. Elias stepped forward quietly. You just made enemies, he said. I already had them, she replied. Now they have faces. A war-rekindled peace lasted only 2 days. On the 3rd, a fleet approached from the outer colonies, a faction loyal to Threx's allies. They ignored the queen's orders and opened fire on the border outposts. The truce was broken. Panic spread through the city. Commanders demanded permission to strike back. The queen refused. No, she said. Not yet. If I answer with war, I lose everything we built, her council shouted around her, voices like knives. Elias stood beside her, silent. When the shouting ended, she turned to him. If I do nothing, they call me weak. If I fight, they say I am cruel. What would you do? He thought for a moment. Do something they can't name. She looked at him, puzzled but intrigued. Go to them yourself, he said. Not as a queen, but as a person. Speak to them. Show them what you risk. No army can fight a heart it understands. It's dangerous, said one of her advisors. So is every good choice, Elias said. The flight of the queen at dusk. The queen's ship left the capital under escort. The alien sun burned low on the horizon, painting the sky violet. Elias stood beside her on the command deck. Do your people know you're doing this? He asked. They know enough to be afraid, she said. As they neared the rebel fleet, the ship shuddered. Warning lights flared. Enemy sensors had locked on. They're charging weapons, the pilot said. Hold course, Sarathis ordered. Elias gripped the railing. They'll fire. Then they will learn that I am still their queen, she said quietly. The screen flashed. Energy beams tore through the darkness and then stopped, scattering harmlessly as the queen's ship sent out a pulse of blue light, a signal encoded with her crown's frequency, royal override. A voice crackled through the channel, angry, desperate, fearful. Your radiance. What are you doing? Ending this, she said. You've fought long enough. Look at what we've become. You call me weak, but I am the only one strong enough to stop this blood. You would side with the human. I side with hope, she said. Silence. Then, one by one, the enemy ships powered down their guns. The light in space dimmed, and peace fragile. Trembling returned, the song of a new dawn when they returned to the capital. The city cheered for the first time in years. Even those who had doubted her bowed their heads. The human delegation watched in awe. In the grand hall that night, there was no council, no guards, no nobles. Just two figures beneath the glowing pillars. You risked your life for this, Leah said. So did you, she replied. He smiled faintly. Maybe we're both bad at survival. Or maybe, she said, stepping closer, we are very good at living. They stood close enough that she could hear his breath, steady and real. The air between them glowed faintly with the resonance, that strange harmony that had started the moment. He first walked through her doors, she said. When I saw you enter the grand hall, I felt something I did not have a word for. Now I think I do. He waited. Human, she said simply. I felt human. Leas looked at her, quiet for a long moment. Then he said, and I saw in you what we're still trying to become. For a while, they said nothing. The hall around them pulsed with slow light. Outside, the city hummed like a living heart. Epilogue. The Queen's promise months later. The truce became a treaty. Trade ships crossed the stars. Scientists from both worlds worked side by side. Elias returned to Earth. When he left, the Queen stood on the balcony and watched his shuttle rise. The resonance still thrummed inside her, soft as a memory, strong as a promise. The nobles spoke of rebuilding. The admirals prepared for peace patrols. The people sang new songs, songs of two species who had taught each other courage, and every night the grand hall lit up, its moss paths glowing like the stars that had once separated them. The Queen would sometimes walk those paths alone, her hand brushing the living light where the human had once stood. She would whisper his name, and though the wind carried it away, it always returned as a feeling, warm, fierce, alive. Sarathis of the Void Bloom was no longer just the ruler of the Theri Dominion. She was something greater, a symbol of what happens when two hearts, from two worlds, refuse to be enemies. And across the dark, where no one could see, a human soldier looked at the same stars and whispered the same words she had given him that night.